Somewhere inside you, a life is already being rehearsed. It may not be the life you speak about, write about, or promise yourself you will begin one day. It is the life your body expects. It is hidden in the way you breathe when something uncertain appears, in the way your thoughts move when someone sees your potential, and in the quiet decisions you make when nobody is there to encourage you. You may believe your future is being built by your goals, but much of it is being shaped by a deeper signal, one that rarely uses words. It is the signal of who you believe you are when life becomes uncomfortable. This is why becoming your future self can feel so close in one moment and impossibly far away in the next. There are days when you can almost feel that person inside you. You speak differently. You move with more calm. You see your life from a wider place. And for a few hours, the future does not feel like a fantasy. It feels like a memory waiting to happen. Then something small pulls you back. A message goes unanswered. A familiar fear enters the room. Someone doubts you, or perhaps nobody notices you at all, and suddenly the old identity returns as if it never left. You may call this inconsistency. You may tell yourself that you lack discipline, confidence, or focus. But what if something more intelligent is happening beneath the surface? What if the part of you that keeps returning to the past is not trying to destroy your future? What if it is trying to protect a version of you that once learned how to survive? The nervous system does not care about your dreams in the way your conscious mind does. It cares about what feels known. It studies your past and uses it to predict what is safe, what is dangerous, what belongs to you, and what should be avoided. If visibility once brought judgment, your body may treat success like a threat. If love once came with instability, peace in a relationship may feel suspicious. If money was always connected to fear, receiving more responsibility may create anxiety instead of relief. Your mind can desire a new life, while your body quietly prepares to escape from it. This is one of the hidden reasons people spend years working toward change and still find themselves repeating the same emotional patterns. They may change cities, relationships, careers, routines, and goals, yet the same internal atmosphere follows them. The names change, but the feeling remains. The new job awakens the old fear of failure. The new relationship awakens the old fear of abandonment. The new opportunity awakens the old question of whether they are truly capable of holding it. The future does not only ask whether you can reach it, it asks whether your identity can remain present once it arrives. There is a version of you that says it wants more, but there may also be a version of you that associates more with danger. More attention can mean more judgment. More money can mean more responsibility. More love can mean more to lose. More freedom can mean nobody else is available to blame. So the old identity creates delays that look reasonable. It asks for more preparation. It waits for perfect clarity. It says the timing is not right. It turns one small uncertainty into a complete argument against movement. This pattern is so subtle because it often speaks in your own voice. It does not announce itself as fear. It calls itself logic. It does not say, "I am protecting the past." It says, "I am being realistic." It does not say, "I do not know how to feel safe inside expansion." It says, "Maybe this is not meant for me." The person you are becoming is not defeated by these thoughts. They are simply delayed every time you mistake an old prediction for the truth. Your brain is constantly predicting the next moment. It uses memories, emotions, habits, and previous experiences to create a model of what is likely to happen. This is one of the ways it helps you move through life without having to relearn everything every day. You do not need to consciously remember how to open a door, recognize a face, or understand every familiar sound. Prediction makes life efficient, but the same mechanism that creates efficiency can also create repetition. When the brain has experienced the same emotional response many times, that response becomes easier to produce. A thought activates a feeling. The feeling shapes the body, and the body sends information back to the brain that confirms the thought. The loop becomes familiar. Eventually, you no longer need an external reason to enter it. A quiet morning can awaken anxiety because anxiety has become the expected atmosphere. A good opportunity can awaken doubt because doubt has become the expected response to possibility. This does not mean you are broken. It means your system has become skilled at being the person you have repeatedly practiced being. Every time you tell yourself that you always fail, the brain does not treat the sentence as harmless background noise. It begins looking for evidence that fits it. Every time you avoid something because you feel uncertain, the body learns that uncertainty required escape. Every time you remain silent to avoid rejection, the nervous system receives another lesson. Being seen is dangerous. Hiding is safe. The lesson may not be true, but repetition gives it the feeling of truth. This is where your future self begins to matter in a different way. Your future self is not simply a more successful person standing at the end of time. It is a different internal organization. It is a body that has learned a new relationship with uncertainty. It is a mind that does not turn every challenge into a statement about personal worth. It is a nervous system that can remain open in situations where the old identity would contract. The future version of you may still experience fear, but fear is no longer given complete authority. They may still feel disappointment, but disappointment does not become an identity. They may still face uncertainty, but uncertainty is not automatically translated into danger. The difference is not that life has stopped touching them. The difference is that everything life touches no longer becomes a wound. This is why visualizing the future is not enough. You can imagine the home, the work, the freedom, the relationship, and the recognition, but the body does not change simply because the mind has created a beautiful picture. The body learns through experience. It needs to feel you responding differently in a real moment. It needs evidence that you can speak without disappearing, rest without guilt, receive without suspicion, and move without complete certainty. You may understand this intellectually and still feel the old reaction arise tomorrow. Understanding is the beginning, but it is not the transformation. You can know where a pattern came from and still obey it. You can explain your childhood perfectly and still carry its emotional rules into every new room. Insight gives you a map, but you must still walk through the landscape. This is where many people become trapped. They collect information about the person they want to become. They read, listen, plan, analyze, and prepare. They become experts in transformation without allowing transformation to become physical. Their understanding becomes so sophisticated that it feels like movement, but the same decisions continue beneath it. They know what confidence means, but they still wait for permission. They understand boundaries, but their voice disappears when a boundary is needed. They speak about trust, but their body remains prepared for betrayal. The mind can describe a door for years without opening it. The person you are becoming does not need more description. They need a place to enter your present behavior. In quantum physics, reality at the smallest scales cannot always be described as a collection of fixed objects moving through a simple mechanical world. Quantum systems are represented through probabilities, and measurement is connected to which outcome becomes available to experience. This does not mean that your thoughts magically control every event around you, and it does not mean that wanting something strongly enough forces the universe to deliver it. But the quantum view gives us a powerful philosophical image. Reality contains more possibility than the ordinary mind can see, and the way you participate in a moment influences which path becomes real through your choices. In everyday life, you are constantly collapsing possibilities through attention and action. A conversation contains many possible directions. A difficult morning contains many possible responses. An opportunity contains many possible versions of you. The version that apologizes for existing creates one path. The version that speaks clearly creates another. The version that waits for certainty creates one consequence. The version that moves carefully but honestly creates another. The world does not need to become magical for your life to change. It only needs to contain more than one possible response. This is the practical meaning of frequency. It is not necessary to imagine an invisible number floating around your body. Your frequency can be understood as the pattern you repeatedly express through your emotional state, attention, expectations, posture, language, and behavior. It is the total quality of the signal you bring into your life. When you live from fear, the signal appears in small ways. You rush, you overthink. You read neutral expressions as rejection. You delay important actions until the opportunity becomes weaker. You ask people to decide your value. You notice danger before possibility. Your reality begins to reflect this pattern, not because the universe is punishing you, but because your attention and behavior keep organizing life around the same expectation. When you live from a more stable identity, you send a different signal. You listen longer. You respond instead of reacting. You recognize discomfort without immediately escaping it. You make decisions that are connected to your values rather than your panic. People often respond differently because you are communicating differently, even when you do not realize it. Possibilities become visible because your mind is no longer filtering them through the same fear. This is how an internal shift can begin looking like synchronicity from the outside. A person appears at the right time. A conversation opens an unexpected door. An idea you would have ignored suddenly becomes clear. Perhaps life does contain mysteries we cannot reduce to psychology alone. But even when we remain honest about what science can and cannot prove, one truth is still powerful. You cannot recognize a path while your identity is trained to look away from it. The real barrier between you and your future self is not always lack of ability. Often, it is identity loyalty. You have spent years creating a relationship with the person you currently believe yourself to be. Even when you criticize that identity, it is familiar. You know its fears, excuses, rhythms, and limits. You know how to survive as this person. Your relationships may be organized around this version of you. Your family may expect this version. Your habits support this version. Your inner dialogue returns to this version after every unfamiliar experience. Changing your identity can therefore feel like betrayal. You may fear that becoming stronger will make you less loving, that becoming successful will create distance from people you care about, that setting boundaries will make you cruel, that healing will make your past meaningless, that leaving an old pattern means abandoning the person who survived it. But transformation does not require you to hate who you were. Your past self is not an enemy to be destroyed. They are a version of you that learned certain strategies under certain conditions. Some of those strategies protected you. Some helped you remain connected, invisible, prepared, or emotionally numb when those responses were necessary. The problem is not that they existed. The problem begins when an old protector is allowed to govern a life that no longer requires the same protection. You can respect the person who carried you here without allowing them to choose every destination. This is where becoming becomes more compassionate. Instead of saying, "Why am I still like this?" you can ask, "What is this response trying to protect?" Instead of attacking the fear, you can listen to its prediction. Perhaps it believes you will be rejected, embarrassed, overwhelmed, or abandoned. You do not need to agree with it. You only need to recognize that the body is responding to a remembered world. Then you can quietly remind yourself that this moment is new. The person you are becoming is not the person who never feels the past. It is the person who can feel the past without letting it become the future. There is a simple way to begin closing the distance between these two identities, but it requires you to stop treating your future self as an image. Images are easy to admire. Identity is revealed through action. Instead of asking what your future self owns, ask what they practice. Instead of asking what their life looks like, ask what their nervous system has learned. How do they respond when a message does not arrive? How do they speak after making a mistake? How do they behave when nobody gives them immediate validation? How do they enter a difficult conversation? How do they rest when work remains unfinished? How do they hold uncertainty in the body? These questions reveal more than any vision board. They bring the future out of fantasy and into ordinary life. Your future self may not wake every morning filled with excitement. They may simply wake without immediately attacking themselves. They may not feel powerful all the time. They may have learned how to remain gentle when power is absent. They may not possess complete certainty. They may have stopped requiring certainty before taking one honest step. This is important because many people try to become their future self by performing intensity. They force gratitude, confidence, motivation, and belief. They attempt to hold an emotional high because they think a high frequency must feel extraordinary. But a sustainable identity is often much quieter. It feels like steadiness. It feels like enough space in the body to choose. It feels like a mind that does not need to turn every moment into a test. Your future self may be less dramatic than your current imagination and far more peaceful than your current nervous system understands. The first part of the practice begins each morning before the world tells you who to be. Before opening your phone or entering the noise of other people's expectations, allow your attention to settle in the body. Let your breathing become slower without forcing it. Feel the movement in the chest and stomach. Notice what emotional atmosphere is already present. Then ask one question. What quality will the person I am becoming embody today? What quality do I choose to live from today? Do not answer with a goal. Do not say wealth, success, recognition, or love. Choose an inner quality such as calm, courage, honesty, openness, patience, dignity, or trust. The quality should feel connected to the life you want, but it must also be something you can practice before that life arrives. Allow yourself to feel how this quality would change your physical presence. If the quality is calm, perhaps the shoulders soften. If it is courage, perhaps the breath becomes fuller. If it is dignity, perhaps the spine rises without becoming rigid. If it is honesty, perhaps the body feels less divided. Stay with the feeling long enough for it to become more than a word. You are not trying to convince yourself that you have already achieved everything. You are teaching the body the emotional posture of the person who can meet what is coming. The second part happens during the day, usually when you least want it to. A familiar trigger will appear. You may feel ignored, uncertain, judged, rushed, or afraid. The old identity will offer its usual solution. Hide, delay, over-explain, control, attack. Please everyone. Give up before anyone can reject you. This moment is the doorway. You do not need to perform a dramatic transformation. You only need to remain present long enough to recognize that more than one response exists. Take one slower breath and remember the quality you chose in the morning. Then ask, what is the smallest action that belongs to that quality? The answer may be sending the message you have been avoiding. It may be waiting 10 minutes before responding emotionally. It may be telling the truth without adding a long explanation. It may be accepting help. It may be closing the laptop and allowing the body to rest. It may be beginning badly instead of waiting to begin perfectly. The action must be small enough to become real. Your nervous system does not need another impossible standard. It needs evidence. Every small action creates a memory that the old identity did not contain. You become someone who has spoken honestly once, then someone who has done it twice. You become someone who has remained present during uncertainty, someone who has felt fear without immediately obeying it, someone who has received appreciation without rejecting it, someone who has made a mistake and remained worthy afterward. This is how the future self becomes familiar, not through one enormous leap, but through repeated moments of recognition. The third part of the practice happens at night. Before sleep, remember one moment when you responded differently from the past. Write a single sentence beginning with, "Today, I became my future self when I..." Keep the sentence specific. Do not write that you understood something, intended something, or hoped for something. Write what you did. Perhaps you became your future self when you said no without apologizing for 10 minutes. Perhaps you began the project even though doubt was present. Perhaps you allowed yourself to rest before reaching complete exhaustion. Perhaps you listened instead of defending yourself. This sentence becomes evidence. Over 30 days, the evidence begins forming a new story. But this time, the story is not built from fantasy. It is built from behavior. Some days you may feel that you failed. The old response may return with full force. You may react, hide, delay, or fall into a pattern you believed you had already left. Do not turn this into proof that change is impossible. The old identity was repeated for years. It will not disappear simply because you understood it once. Transformation is not the absence of return. It is the speed with which awareness returns. In the beginning, you may recognize the pattern hours after it happened. Later, you recognize it while it is happening. Eventually, you feel it approaching before it becomes action. This is progress. The space between impulse and behavior begins to widen, and inside that space, the person you are becoming gains a voice. There will also be a moment when the old identity becomes louder. You may feel unusual resistance, tiredness, doubt, or the sudden belief that none of this matters. This often happens when change becomes real enough to threaten the familiar pattern. The mind may create philosophical questions, practical excuses, or urgent distractions. It may tell you that you need a better method, a more powerful sign, or the perfect time to begin. Recognize what is happening. The old self is not proving that it is true. It is proving that it feels threatened. Familiar suffering can feel safer than unfamiliar freedom. In familiar suffering, you know your role, you know what to expect, you know how disappointment feels. Freedom creates responsibility. It asks you to make choices without using the past as a permanent explanation. It asks you to risk discovering that your limits were never as fixed as they appeared. This can create grief. Becoming your future self sometimes means mourning the identity you thought you had to be. The responsible one who never rested. The quiet one who never asked for anything. The strong one who never needed help. The agreeable one who kept connection by disappearing. These identities may have earned love, safety, or approval once. Releasing them can feel like losing a language you used to survive. Let the grief exist. You are not only creating a new life, you are saying goodbye to old agreements. There is a spiritual dimension to this process that cannot be measured only through behavior. Many traditions describe transformation as a return rather than an achievement. They suggest that beneath conditioning, fear, and borrowed identities, there is a deeper self that has never been damaged in the same way your personality was wounded. This self does not need to become worthy. It needs to be uncovered. Perhaps the future self feels familiar because it is not entirely future. Perhaps it is the part of you that existed before you learned to become smaller. The part that knew how to feel without shame, create without comparison, and speak without constantly studying the faces of others. You may not be building this person from nothing. You may be removing what keeps interrupting them. This is why certain dreams do not leave you. Even after disappointment, distraction, and delay, they return. Perhaps they change form, but the deeper movement remains. You still want to create, heal, speak, love, lead, explore, or become free. The desire survives because it may be connected to something more essential than ambition. Not every desire is guidance, but some desires carry the quiet feeling of recognition. They do not only promise pleasure, They ask for truth. Your future self is not asking you to become impressive. They are asking you to become undivided. They are asking your thoughts, emotions, values, and actions to begin moving in the same direction. They are asking you to stop saying yes while the body says no. To stop saying you trust yourself while constantly asking others for permission. To stop speaking about freedom while organizing your life around fear. Coherence begins when the different parts of you no longer need to fight for control. This does not happen through force. It happens through honest repetition. For the next 30 days, choose one inner quality and let it become the bridge between your current identity and the person you are becoming. Practice it when the moment is small. Practice it when nobody is watching. Practice it before the result appears. Do not wait until you feel like that person. Feeling often follows evidence. At some point, you may notice that the old behavior no longer feels natural. The situation may still appear, but your body responds differently. You may recover faster. You may need less approval. You may feel less attracted to people and environments that depend on your insecurity. You may stop arguing with decisions you already know are right. This is the threshold. The future self is no longer only someone you visit in imagination. They have become the identity your system is beginning to recognize as home. The outer world may not change immediately. This is where many people abandon the process. They feel different, but the same responsibilities, problems, and circumstances remain. They assume the internal shift was not real because reality has not yet confirmed it. But this is the moment when identity becomes genuine. Can you remain connected to a new way of being before it is rewarded? Can you practice self-respect before others respect the boundary? Can you live with calm before the problem is solved? Can you move with courage before anyone calls you brave? Anyone can believe after receiving proof. Becoming asks whether you can create evidence through the way you live. This does not mean denying reality. You do not need to pretend that pain is pleasure, that debt is abundance, that loneliness is connection, or that uncertainty is certainty. You can acknowledge the facts without allowing them to become a definition of your identity. You can say, "This is difficult," without saying, "I am powerless." You can say, "I do not know what comes next," without saying, "Nothing good can come." The future self is not a person who escapes reality. They are a person who can face reality without becoming smaller than it. If these words are finding a place inside you, write this in the comments. I am no longer waiting for my future self. I am practicing them now. Do not write it as a promise of perfection. Write it as a decision to stop placing your identity in a distant future. Let it be a reminder that becoming does not begin when the circumstances finally change. It begins when you respond differently inside the circumstances you already have. Before this video ends, allow yourself one quiet moment of integration. Let your breathing slow and bring to mind one situation you are likely to face within the next 24 hours. It may be a conversation, a task, a decision, or a moment when the old pattern usually appears. Notice the response your current identity normally gives. Feel where it lives in the body. Perhaps the chest tightens, the stomach contracts, or the breath becomes shallow. Do not reject the reaction. Recognize it as a memory trying to protect you. Then remember the quality you have chosen. Let that quality enter the body gently. Do not force it to become intense. Notice how it might change your posture, your breath, or the space around the thought. From that quieter state, see one small action you can take when the situation arrives. Stay with that action for a few breaths. Let the body experience it now, not as a fantasy of perfection, but as a possible response. You are giving the nervous system a new prediction. You are showing it that the future contains more than one path. When the moment arrives tomorrow, you may still feel fear. That does not mean the practice failed. The goal is not to remove the old signal before you move. The goal is to stop allowing the old signal to make every decision. Your future self will not arrive in one dramatic moment. They will enter quietly through the choices that once seemed too small to matter, through the message you finally send, the boundary you calmly hold, the rest you allow, the truth you speak, and the beginning you make without certainty. One day, you may look back and realize that the great transformation did not happen when the world finally gave you permission. It happened when you stopped asking the world who you were allowed to become. The future was never only waiting ahead of you. It was waiting inside the next honest response. And perhaps, the person you have been searching for has been here all along, listening beneath the fear, waiting for you to stop imagining them and begin letting them live.